but not overly surprised, Prof. In the mid-90s, Professor Huntington from Harvard wrote about the clash of civilizations.
Yes.
Could it be that that is what we are witnessing? He postulated that in the post-Cold War period in the world will not be clashing because of ideological differences. They will be clashing on the basis of cultures. Could that be what we are seeing? I don't know. You are the political scientist. I'm a historian. Well, Dibal is, we have a morning of a binary of sadness and joy. Sadness because we have lost one of our greatest athletes, Calvin Kiptum. I was shocked. I admired the young man when he beat the greats of marathon recently and thought that he had a great future, only to lose him in a grisly accident on Sunday night. But also there is a dimension of joy. Lovers are celebrating this morning. Those who believe in Valentine. I deliberately don't, especially at this time of lean financial times.
A brief history of Valentine's will do, from you as well.
Oh, well, it's on March, it talks about a Catholic saint who died on the basis of love. It's not something we want to promote by analyzing its history on a national television at this moment. But I wish those who believe in it to carry on and spread the same joy and love to the rest in our country.
Yes. Indeed, and of course, yesterday there was something happening at the University of Nairobi. Your department or
not yesterday, is actually happening tomorrow.
Oh, it's happening tomorrow.
It's happening tomorrow. We are having to look at a little bit about terrorism. And I don't see Hassan Nenja today. He's going to be a moderator and a discussant of that session.
Okay.
Where we are having a colleague from Ghent University in Belgium, Ngala Chome, speaking on the history of violent nationalism and how that interfaces with the likely increase of such cases in the period that we live in because of the way the events are changing. So it's promising to be a very interesting session tomorrow at 2:30 up to 4:30 in the afternoon at the University of Nairobi Towers, 4th floor, room 401. For those who want to attend physical, for those who want to be online, we also have an online link. If you go to my Twitter handle, you'll find it. Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic.
Yes.
I wonder if, Professor Kagwanja, you're aware about the new National Security Amendment Bill that is coming to the fore. Yesterday we had some legislators who had a very feisty debate around it. And they're wondering, why do we need to review a National Security Council that somebody who is not within, who is maybe an advisor of the president, and we have it from the Constitution, well stipulated, Article 240, who actually should be there, right? All right, I just want to show you, these are the pictures that we have that before we continue the conversation here of the arrest of Kevin Kang'ethe, who has been on the run, and he was arrested this morning in, actually last evening in Mbul, Kajiado County. He's a fugitive from the US, having killed his girlfriend, and he's been on the run since. And we just gave you information earlier of how that really transpired, how he escaped police custody. A lawyer came out to see him, that he wanted to see him. And when they were having conversation, that is when they managed, or he managed to escape. Given to understand still that the police or the lawyer is in his custody right now, and this is the latest development that we have so far. These are pictures coming from our reporter, Odi Francis, who was following this story for us last evening. Right, I don't know, let me just rope in Yusuf Hassan. Good morning, good to see you. Right, I know you've been also following the story of, you may just have the pictures back of Kevin Kang'ethe, who is a fugitive from the US, wanted in Massachusetts for the murder of his girlfriend. So he was, and we know we were talking about it last week, how he just so simply escaped the slummers and the police custody. And people are saying maybe there is a foul play here. What will be your comments? Good morning, good to see you.
Good morning. I think it was a major embarrassment for Kenya
Police
service that a person of such a high profile who has fled from another country could easily just slip through their fingers. So it didn't do much for our reputation and our police force. So I think it is great that they've been able to apprehend him and hopefully their reputation would be salvaged by this arrest.
All right. I don't know, Peter Kagwanja, you had not commented on this arrest as well. I didn't give you a sporting chance.
No, I think it was very embarrassing in the first place, for the affected police officers in Muthaiga, under whose hands this young man escaped. And it raises questions about the safety of our custodies, because if somebody can just walk out of the police station and disappear into the bruise, and then it has taken all that long and of course a lot of outcry for him to be found, and also behind the shadows, of course, the power of the Americans, because it is the Americans who want him extradited. So that would be my first comment about the, our police force, our police stations, and the security of our custodies in that regard. And who else can't escape anyway if this young man can just walk out of the place just because the lawyer has come in. Yeah, so simply. It was laughable, or, quite ridiculous. The second point is the issue of extradition. First, extradition. This is a Kenyan, I think, who came back to Kenya, and he's on the Kenyan soil. I think we need to relook our laws regarding extradition, because if it's a Kenyan, although he committed crime elsewhere, is it not possible for us to try him here and have him jailed here because he's a Kenyan primarily? The last time I checked, Kinyanjui is a Kenyan name. Yeah, it's not really an American name.
But Professor, where would the evidence come from?
No, that's the point.
He committed the crime in another country.
Sure, but
on what basis would Kenya take?
The other question can also be asked: if it's an American, he would not be tried here.
No, he wouldn't be.
If it's American who committed a crime here, we have had the British committing crimes here in Nanyuki and elsewhere.
No, I agree that we should look into our extradition laws, but to try him here would have been impossible. Because I don't think America would allow an American citizen to be tried in this country if once he had fled the country.
Yes, that's
just as the British soldier.
Yes.
Who killed Agnes Wairimu.
Yes.
Is free and would never be extradited to this country.
Yes.
Because of the power relationship.
Now that's what I'm saying. As Kenyans, we need to be very careful about our sovereignty, and the sovereignty must be extended to the power of our citizens. If Kinyanjui fled to Kenya because he thought this is where he belongs, and he doesn't have to be mixed with other prisoners elsewhere in other countries, he wants to be mixed with Kenyan prisoners, then it's upon the US to supply the evidence. As a matter stands now, our Kinyanjui will have to go. But I am saying, as a Kenyan, I think we need to relook at our own laws and make certain, amendments to ensure that we have total sovereignty of our land and over our people. Now, if Kenya cannot try a British, cannot try an American, why should an American or the British try a Kenyan who is on the Kenyan soil? I find the whole issue of extradition or removal of a Kenyan from Kenya to be tried in another country quite ridiculous.
All right. But the question is, when we look at the report also from, I think his Associated Press, said that Kinyanjui had told police that he has renounced his US citizenship. So if he's renounced, how then does it really affect this particular case?
He had renounced his...
This is what he had reported.
That he had renounced
it's not really
his
confirmed
U.S. citizenship.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's the point. That's the point we are making. Whether you have a dual citizen as a Kenyan, if you come to Kenya, and definitely you know the long arm of the law will get you wherever you are. Kinyanjui knew at one point would be arrested. He just was trying to see whether he can have one day in freedom, I guess. That's all. Otherwise, he'll be arrested anyway. But the choice of coming home is that you might want to be tried here in Kenya. And that's why he is escaping prison, trying to do everything under his part. I am trying to interrogate the concept of sovereignty. And the concept of sovereignty, insofar as the Americans are concerned, is extended not only to the territory, but to the citizens. And therefore, America has total sovereignty over its citizens. Why should Kenya have partial sovereignty that we cannot try our own, even when they commit crimes in... I mean, if a Kenyan committed crimes in Rwanda, would we not try him here? So these double standards arising from scales of power, not scales of justice, put a lot of problems in my thoughts.
Dr. Ngong, do you find...
I think even away from the notions of sovereignty that Professor Kawanja is talking about, there's also the principle of reciprocity in the practice of international relations. This simply means if another country does something in a certain way, we answer back by the same way. Just simple. Even American citizens cannot be tried here. We should not try our citizen in the United States. It's just simple international relations logic, if you ask me. Number two, you know, the escape of this Kinyanjui is a very interesting one, but I think it indicts our police force. The question that came to my mind when this guy escaped, just because somebody had come to see him, I just wondered whether they have what we call standard operating procedures when an individual like this is being visited in their precincts. I suppose that the police station is the most secure place that one could be in. But when one can easily escape, that says something about the standard operating procedures of our police force. Then again, you see, Kinyanjui doesn't seem to be a very smart escapee. You can't escape from Muthaiga and you are found in Mbumbu, in Ngong. You see, that seems to me that the police did not do a good job because if he was really very serious, he could have been found in some corner in southern Ethiopia or headed to Djibouti on his way to the Middle East, not just here in Mbumbu, in Ngong. So I think we need some level of seriousness from our police force in dealing with cases of this kind.
Right. I'm just looking at one of the international publications there and saying, you know, we are known for corruption, especially our police. This is now what we're talking about. I'll try and see what you were saying. In a country where corruption is endemic and the police force has been ranked for decades the most corrupt institution in the country, Kang'ethe's escape raised suspicion. The police officers on duty that they may have been bribed to allow his escape. This is from the Washington Post.
Well, I mean, I highly doubt. Of course, that would be an obvious explanation from an outsider looking at us. But I'm sure that police constable in the counter in the police station knew the consequences and the high-profile nature of a case like this one. If he didn't, then that's a case of ignorance, more than corruption, if you ask me. But also there is a possibility. There is something we call an inside job in this country at times. But when you look at the case the way it is, probably not. But you can't escape it from an international perspective. Of course, the way we are viewed we are viewed through the prism of corruption and many other ills of society. But I want to believe that, there was a level of carelessness on the part of the police officer who was dealing with this case over the counter, I think, if you asked me.
Yusuf Hassan, we need to amend our image there. He's dented, we're known as corrupt.
Well, I think it purely obviously puts the police in a very negative light. It creates a lot of suspicions about what could actually have happened in a city police station like Muthaiga for a convict of a fugitive, not a convict, a fugitive of this kind, a murderer, to easily slip through their fingers and disappear into thin air. That obviously, whether it is a question of discipline, negligence, or even whether it is an issue of corruption, the police, that police station hasn't really done itself any favor within the eyes of the Kenyan public, as well as our image internationally, because the report is now been carried by a major international newspaper like the Washington Post. And given the fact that, in fact, we are contributors to peacekeeping effort. We send our police force to international assignments. We have intentions to go and to be deployed in Haiti. It doesn't augur well for us. But also the other thing is, I don't know what is in the mind of Kang'ethe. He has committed this act in the United States. How did he think that he would escape from the United States, come to Kenya, which has an extradition agreement with the United States? How did he think he was going to escape the long arm of the law, even though we have very serious doubts about the balance of the extradition between the two countries? Even then, it seems that he has miscalculated his escape from the United States. And even now, he had miscalculated. What did he intend to gain by running away? How far did he think he could go? It just seems that his strategy and plan for escaping is built on a very weak ground. He's not thought over. The best thing perhaps for him would have been to submit himself to the authorities in the United States and clear his name if he's not a murderer. I also want to point out that the person he is suspected to have murdered is also Kenyan by origin. Indeed. Yeah, and by nationality. So he really hasn't done well in his escape attempts. And also the Kenyan police has not come out very well out of this.
Right. Let me just rope in Professor Mashara Munene to also weigh in, and then we also turn the crack to other matters as well. Good morning, good to see you.
Nice you.
Yeah, so you're always on the run. It reminds me of Indiana Jones, the classic movie, nowhere to run. So Emambul was
try as much as you want.
Try as much as you want.
No, actually, it's a sad event. First of all, he should not have escaped from the United States. Although that raises another question. Some years ago, this Sierra Leone's guy who escaped and ended up running a militia. How you escape from a Massachusetts jail is another matter.
Charles Taylor.
Yes.
Charles Taylor.
And he had the support of the prominent people in Liberia. Some of them became presidents afterwards. And so there are a lot of questions to ask.
Indeed.
I don't think Kang'ethe has any ambitions.
But the parallel is interesting.
So, from the same state as well.
Was he also from Massachusetts? Kang'ethe, or he was somewhere?
Indeed.
There's something wrong about Massachusetts. They should look into that, how people do things, and then they are facilitated to go out. Anyway. It's good if he's been caught, because Kenya does not want that. In connection with the police, let me pay my tribute to King'ori Mwangi. He's a good policeman.
Yes.
And I knew him as a person. And so when we heard about his demise, of course, feel sad, eh? Yeah, so my tribute to King'ori Mwangi. The whole thing about the reputation of the police, whether it is Kang'ethe or the police who let him get out.
Yes.
Because he was allowed to get out. How does he just walk out? With the 4 police, he's in custody. So those police officers need to explain the miracle. Or did he blind them and then they just walk out? It's not a very good reputation. And the police need cleaning up. I mean, this should be some sort of a warning. Clean up.
Clean up.
Yeah, clean up. And if you are going to be sending people to Haiti, are those the kind of people you are sending them to go as an example? It's not a very good one. Who have an understanding with the criminals? So it's not very good. So there is a message to our institutions.
So we're going to Haiti with a cloud bank of corruption hanging over our heads as well. What will happen in Haiti if we don't clear our name?
If we don't clear your name, and barbecue will be waiting for you.
As we wind up on this.
I think what we've said is right. There are a number of issues that have to do with how we are building our nation, how our reputation comes out there, and so on. But I think the main point to make here is that before you go to remove the speck in other people's eyes, I think it's good to first of all deal with the log in our own eye. And even as I joined Professor Munene in mourning the foreign hero, King'ori Mwangi, who was a no-nonsense officer. Anybody who knew King'ori, I knew him as a police officer and a very nuanced intellectual in terms of the argument of issues. He would not sleep or spend the day without basically interrogating a certain issue, and he would even call you twice a day to confirm that this is it. He was a thorough officer, and I'm sure there are many more thorough officers in our country. But what happened in Muthaiga is a very indicting kind of behavior. Also coupled with that is of course the Haiti thing and the comment that has come from international media, particularly the New York Times, about what this means to us. I was reading an article by one British journalist, Michel Arong, who said in Foreign Affairs a couple of years ago that Kenyans are corrupt to the point that even grandmothers are corrupt. I don't buy that kind of crap. But when we see a case like this one, it makes us vulnerable to those kind of racist comments. Because corruption is in nobody's DNA. Systems can be decayed, but that does not mean that people or countries are corrupt. Systems get decayed. I remember Francis Fukuyama, talking about the decay of the American society, and he has written volumes about that decay. Systems decay, and therefore it's not racist comments like Kenyans are corrupt to the bones, or to that even grandmothers are corrupt, and therefore the New York Times would argue that there was corruption in Muthaiga. Systems basically corrupting.
The Washington Post.
The Washington Post, sorry.
Yes.
Let me just interject there. I agree with the professor here. Michaela Wrong has something wrong with her. She has a passionate dislike for Kenya. So it's not a surprise you come up with that sort of thing. But one of the funny part is that she has a big hearing in the West. Even if it does not make sense,
Yes.
they're still here.
Yes, they're still here.
And so when she comes up with this sort of thing, I'm not surprised,
Yeah.
given her past record
Yeah.
and the way she
Is she
looks
the
at
one
things.
who wrote It's Our Time to Eat?
Yes, and I don't know whether she was
Yeah,
eating also.
so,
You know?
it's not surprising. You know, such monocharacterization stereotypes are really common from the international media, leave alone the general Western conception of what happens here. And such misconceptions do not only inform such everyday activities, but also the intellectual understanding of what is happening in the continent. And that is probably those of us who are in the corridors of the academy, and all of us, actually including Honorable Hassan here, we need to work towards correcting those impressions. You cannot use just one characteristic to generalize to a whole population of the whole continent.
And you don't become racist, because this is really verging on racism.
Yeah.
We do accept
Yes.
that systems decay, and ours is not immune to
it.
systemic decay.
Yes.
America has decayed, that one we know, and Fukuyama has told us. You know, Britain has had its own issues. You know, other Western powers, the East has had its serious decay. Systems decay, but you cannot generalize that in order to castigate a people and cast them as, you know, genetically corrupt. And this is what we heard from Chinua Achebe and in Things Fall Apart, talking about because the sun is hot over here, it has sapped our mind that we are corrupted to the bone. You know, this is, we got this as students at the, you know, in secondary schools, that this is the way we are characterized. The image of Africa, as it is called, the image of Africa is that corruption. So when you drag Kinyanjui's nonsense into this now racist debate and tie it up, and you start now condemning Kenyans as a people, then that's not right. That's what we are saying. Actually, as Kenyans, we should now, this is a wake-up call for us to start demanding total sovereignty of our own country and of our own people. Nobody should try a Kenyan or ask to get a Kenyan into the plane to be tried outside the country. It is an indictment on our, you know, our sense of sovereignty, our sense of freedom, and our sense of what is right for us. I know as it stands now, I'm not ignorant, I know as it stands now, Kinyanjui will be extradited and taken back to the US. I say that is wrong, because Kenyans cannot try Americans. That's what I said at the beginning. I know now he has to go, and as matter stands, this is a situation. But the leadership of this country, I would say, shame on us.
Well, Yusuf Hassan, I think this sounds to be very convoluted for me. If you happen to have committed this crime within the jurisprudence of the U.S. citizen, U.S. territory, and within U.S. boundaries, should you not be, as Peter Kagonya say, then should you not be tried there, because that is where it happened?
Yes, I don't think there is a dispute.
Do you agree with what he's saying?
No, there is no dispute about the fact that Kevin Kinyanjui and Kang'ethe should be tried in the place where that particular crime has happened. But the point we're making here, and I think the professor is making, is not nothing much to do with the crime itself, but the double standard involved in exchanges between two sovereign states. For example, if there was an American who had committed that same crime here on our land, and he flees to the United States, what are the possibilities of that particular fugitive to be returned back to stand trial in our country? Nil, zero. So is it acceptable to have that unequal relationship with another country as a sovereign independent state? So that's the point that I think is that has come out here, and I fully agree with that. I think there is a serious problem of inequality of the implementation of international law when it comes to a strong country like the United States or the United Kingdom, for example, is that they play these double standards, that they are reluctant to bring back a convict, a fugitive from their own country who's committed a crime here, simply because they would start making this, they start demonizing our police system, our judicial system, by saying we cannot trust the impartiality of the Kenyan courts, for example. These are the argument that they would use to undermine the process of international law when it comes to a developing country like ours in Kenya. So should we have such a relationship with countries like the United States and the United Kingdom if it's not reciprocal? That's the question. I think in that case, then, of course, it should not. We should not be a party to it if it is not respecting our own sovereignty, if it does not accept the efficiency and the effectiveness of our courts, if it does not believe that our police force can do the job, because the American police is often accused of corruption and violence and racism. American courts are not immune to the same things that Kenyan courts might be accused. So why do we have these double standards? And is it acceptable for us as a sovereign state to be carrying the burden when the other country that we are interacting with is not doing the same?
Right, just reminded me also of the American citizen Terry Ray Krigler, who was a pedophile, if you may remember that story, was also discreetly released by the Kenyan courts. I think that was last in 2021 there, and who was arrested again for defiling 3 minors in Athi River. The rigors of justice, especially when it comes to pedophiling or maybe just molestation of children now, and being released on bail. And if you're such a person of such a caliber of having a pedophile or pedophilic nature, I don't know what sort of a slap in the wrist is that? Because you are arrested on bail, you go commit the same crime.
I think, Dipal, we have said in this forum before of the systemic decay in our own situation. Even away from the case that you are referring to, there are so many other things that one can point to show that we need to do things slightly differently, including the escape of such a highly wanted fellow internationally out of the news. How he escapes, runs away from a police counter in a police station in a fairly secure area of Muthaiga, raises questions of our efficiency and effectiveness in terms of our institutions. We have also said some things that are not very flattering in this forum about the evolution of our police force and their modus operandi or a way of operating in many things. But having said that, then we need deliberately as a country to work towards making our different structures at different levels work effectively and efficiently. It can also give us confidence that we have systems that work. In different ways, we have been let down, actually, as a people, as a country, and even as a continent.
Indeed.
But then again, we are saying, and very eloquently this morning, that system decay should not be used to generalize and condemn a whole race of Africans. That's a terrible misconception. We need to deal with situations independent in some ways of our people. Let's take the blame, but let it not be used to judge us everywhere you go. Somebody wants to see you as corruption walking around. That is the most unfortunate situation that we will have. And those of us who have lived in different parts of the world, you know, sometimes we have suffered because of these very generalized notions of who Africans are and who Africans are not. I'm sure, Mheshimiwa, you have lived in different parts of the country, Professor here, my teacher, Professor Macharia Munene here, and there are certain ways that we are treated that suggest that these stereotypes still persist.
Right. Even as we're winding up, let me just throw this to you, Yusuf Hassan, because we had a story of Agnes Wanjiru, who was murdered by the British soldier almost over a decade ago. And we see the wheel of justice also grinding slowly on this particular case until we had the family instructing a law firm to challenge the Ministry of Defense over what it says is a failure to investigate her alleged murder. We had partner Teresa Gregory, of course, told one of the international media that our clients desperately wants justice for Agnes, but also wants answers to what the British Army knew and why it is that over the last 9 years, the Ministry of Defense appear to have done nothing to address the known allegations Agnes was brutally murdered at the hands of a British soldier. So we can see, on the other hand, we have the quick wheel of justice, you know, moving faster. When we have our own here, this sort of glacial slowness that is ongoing in that particular case. I didn't put tails on it to know what exactly became of that particular case. But also, you being in the Department of Foreign Relations, Diplomacy and Intelligence, what would you say about this?
Well, the death of Agnes Wanjiru,
yes,
is a terrible indictment on us as a country and as a nation. She was killed by uniformed British soldier who was based in our country, and he was able to escape back to the United Kingdom, and there has been absolutely no action either on the part of the British government, which has a responsibility under the defense agreement that we have with them to have apprehended that particular person, and also the Kenyan authority has been lax or not interested, didn't have the will to push this particular case until eventually it was brought up by British parliamentarians who brought it to the House of Commons and to the attention of the British government. And what has happened until now is that the British authorities have been dragging their feet. They have not wanted to successfully conclude this particular sad saga and bring this guy to book. Unfortunately, I'm told that now he's been discharged from the British military and is a citizen out there.
Scot-free.
Yes. So, but there are cases that are going on. The Department of Defense has started investigations in this particular matter. It is now an active case in Parliament. Investigations are going on, and we would like to leave no stone unturned to make sure that, in fact, Agnes Wanjiru's gets justice, family gets justice, and that whatever is necessary is done to sort of conclude this particular case successfully, and the family is compensated, an apology given to them. But more importantly, we are tightening the regulation and relationship that we have with the British government when servicemen come to our land. We want to make sure that if an incident of that kind happened on our soil, that particular soldier would be detained here and would be charged in a Kenyan law, court of law. So I don't think that the mistake that happened some 11, 12 years ago would be repeated, because we want to tighten the rules, the terms of engagement in which soldiers who come to practice or exercise in our country would not go scot-free if they committed crimes like murder on our territory.
Indeed. Murder on our territory. And this is what Nordin Haji had to actually say. Let me just begin with what the UK High Commissioner then, that is Jane Marriott, she had expressed outrage and concern over Wanjiru's death and promised high-level support for Kenyan investigation into her murder. And Nordin Haji, the former DPP, now head of intelligence, says Kenya's director, he said the government will request the soldiers' extradition to face murder charges in Kenya.
Yes.
Right? So he should not be tried in the UK. He committed it just as Kang'ethe is being extradited to go back to the US. So we needed to know that. The soldier, you say, he's been, of course, is walking scot-free.
You know, one of the problems that we had in 2012 when Agnes Wanjiru was murdered was that British soldiers had immunity.
They had immunity?
Yes, yes. Well, under the new arrangements that we would like to see, is that no one operating on our territory would enjoy that kind of protection under international law, would have immunity. You know, like, for example, if a diplomat was to hit you, a foreign diplomat's vehicle was to hit you,
yes,
and you died, that foreign diplomat has immunity under the Vienna Convention. They wouldn't be charged here unless the government of that particular citizen removes that immunity and allows that particular person to stand trial here. So there are some international standards and regulations. Yeah. And at that particular moment, it appeared as if the British soldiers on our territory could not stand trial. But that needs to change. We want to make sure that, in fact, if someone commits murder in our territory, that immunity should be removed by that particular friendly country that we have agreements with. In the case of Agnes Wanjiru, the case did not come to light while that particular soldier was on our territory. It only came to light, and her body was found in a septic tank after he had left the country, which was very unfortunate. But also, he was not alone. There were several other accomplices who helped him to hide and put the body somewhere it would probably not be found very quickly. So I think there were a lot of mistakes, and I think we need to learn from that. We need to change the terms of reference in which we operate when it comes to our citizens. And what happened to Agnes Wanjiru and her family should never be repeated in Kenya again.
So explain to me, if he's been discharged as the British soldier, as it is right now, he's a scot-free citizen, working scot-free, I should say, that doesn't apply retrospectively. So he cannot be extradited to be charged here because he's no longer enjoying that immunity.
Yes, but I think the point is that the British government was not willing to cooperate with the Kenya government in bringing this particular person to justice.
We should follow through with what the High Commissioner say.
It will be the High Commissioner might be saying nice things to defend and protect the reputation of our country, but it is unlikely for a member of the British Armed Forces who had come here on duty to be brought back by the British government. If they were going to do anything to address this issue, they should have charged him using their own rules because he had committed a murder.
Okay.
Yeah, this guy is now a murderer walking free in the streets of the United Kingdom. How does that help the reputation and the integrity of a country like the United Kingdom, knowing quite clearly that this guy, whom they had let free, has committed a murder in another country? It doesn't augur well for them as well in terms of their reputation. So some terrible mistake has been done here, and I think if it is necessary, it should be absolutely clear that this is something that we will not tolerate as a country.
All right. Well, allow me just take a short break. I think it is 7.